You know when you're at weddings, how there's always a, and actually any event, but this just happens to be weddings. There's always somebody that's a little bit more screechy. Somebody that during the day the alcohol gets plied a little bit more, and they scream and screech. And do you know that guest? Mm-hmm. And it's usually Mad Auntie Sue, isn't it? Mm. Everybody has a Mad Auntie Sue.
Yeah,
I had a Mad Auntie Sue. Well, an Auntie Sue. Do you remember a time when people were just you weren't allowed to call adults by their first name? They had to be aunties.
Yeah.
It might be just a British thing.
Oh, I don't know. I saw my Auntie Nancy this weekend for the first time in a long time.
Auntie who?
Nancy.
Oh, I thought you said Auntie Dancy. There's a great auntie name.
Auntie Nancy.
Auntie Nancy. Is she a real auntie or is she?
Yeah, kind of. She was.
Oh, no,
married.
I don't mean like that.
No, she was
auntie as in dad's friend kind of.
No. She's my dad's brother's second wife.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, technically,
right.
But she's American, although she lives in Poole, and we see her very infrequently. And I still call her Auntie Nancy.
Do you?
Yeah,
all
and
right.
I think it's kind of I think in America that it's a thing, and so she's.
Is it
American.
in America as
I
well?
think so.
Is it, guys? Let us know. Do you as a child do you have to call them auntie if they're?
Yeah.
Certainly in some continents, auntie is a form of reverence, isn't it? For mother, certainly.
Mother.
Mother, definitely in Africa, mother.
Yeah. I still kind of get Gemma to call me husband Kev.
Well, anyway, I was at this wedding over the weekend, and there was a particular guest, and she was screeching. She was really 2 sheets to the wind.
Yeah.
Gone, absolutely. So much so that at one stage, even the groom said, "Have you got a picture of Mad Auntie Sue or whatever her name was?" I said, "Yeah, I've got quite a few actually. She's featuring in quite a few pictures." So I was recording a photo film that day. So I've got lots of. Honestly, as I was going through the audio the morning after the wedding, and I was sitting at the breakfast bar and just downloading the wedding audio from the day prior, Sam said, "Who is that?" I said, "Well, that's Mad Auntie Sue, that is." And she's all the way through all the regular speeches, she's through everything, just audio picked up during the day occasionally. So I thought she sounded like a squawking bird, really. Well, Sam said that as well. She could be a squawking bird. So I thought this morning, for your pleasure, we're going to play a special game. It's called
Wedding Guest or Squawking Bird.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, you have to guess whether it's a wedding guest or a squawking bird. Now, I thought it would be a bit easy if the squawking birds just had a background bird song or anything. So I've cleverly put the wedding in the background of every single example. So there's just people talking or whatever.
Right.
So you can't tell by the background whether it's a bird or a guest.
Right.
Are you ready for the first one?
Yeah.
Here it comes.
Bird.
You're right. Yeah. I've got to give you the correct sound.
Hey!
Okay. Next one. Here we go.
That's an Auntie Sue.
Are you sure? Does it sound like a chicken?
No, that's an Auntie Sue.
Do you think so?
Yeah. Yay!
Next one.
That's an Auntie Sue.
You're very good at this game. Okay. Next one. This one.
Oh no, that's a tricky one.
Yeah.
That sounds more like a monkey.
A monkey?
I'm going to go for a bird.
You're going to go for a bird?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a red-legged something or other.
Hey!
Yeah, correct. Look at this. Right.
4 out of 4.
4 out of 4.
Do I win a car or something if I get an extra
You
right?
can have a Questions of the Lifeblood of the Show coaster.
I've got one.
Oh, you got one already. You can have a mug. Oh, you got one of those as well. Okay. Last one. Let's see how you go.
Yeah, that's an Auntie Sue. It has to be.
You want to listen to it again?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's Auntie Sue.
Well.
Oh, no way!
It's a Western screech owl.
Oh my God. I feel like the person has rung in for the Guess the Voice competition and it's got up to £175,000.
Fell at the very last one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. So all those prizes, the car, the power boat.
No, I'm going home.
The Fujicast.
had a lot of fun making that. I should have been doing some work when I was making that. It took me about an hour to make that quiz.
It's taken me a month.
I wanted you to know, by the way, we do put a lot of thought into this show.
Yeah, we do.
Right, welcome to the show. Thank you to our friends at Simpler Straps for letting us give away a Simpler camera strap each to our favourite email questions of the week. Great thing about Simpler is that they're proportioned and made for cameras that we use. Pro-grade cameras, max function, minimal bulk, quick adjusting, non-metal hardware that won't scratch your camera and glass, unless you are Kevin Mullins, of course, who has no dividers in his bag. It doesn't matter what you do, you're always going to have scratches.
Yeah.
Go to simpler.us to see what these things look like. simpler.us. Your questions, anything Fujifilm or photography related, technical, artistic, business, personal. We love your questions. They are the lifeblood of the show. Click at fujicast.co.uk. There will be a self-indulgent minute. I don't think we're going to be doing that for next week for a couple of weeks because we've got the special shows coming from España. So
Los Fujicast.
3 weeks, I think, of Los Fujicast. So the show will change slightly over those 3 weeks. So questions. You're on your paperless system, so I have to press the paperless button for you there. There we go. Do you want to go first, or shall I go first?
You go first.
This one is from Karen Malkin. Hello, guys. Love your work and podcast, especially Kevin's voice.
Oh,
there we go. Love my work, but your voice.
No, well, that's a first, because normally it's the other way around.
Yeah, you're all about the work. I've been using a Sony A7 paired with the 50mm 1.8 for street photography for a bit less than a year, and I'm finding the 50 to be a bit too long for my taste, so instead of buying the crazy expensive Zeiss 35mm 2.8, I'm thinking of switching to Fujifilm XT3 paired with a Fujinon 23mm f2 as a gateway to the Fuji system. What do you guys think?
Sounds good.
Yeah, it does sound good.
It's good entry.
Yeah, good price point on that one. What would you get an XT1 with a 23 for money wise? Do you think, roughly speaking?
It depends on condition and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm guessing, is it 23 1.4 f2? 23
f2.
I mean, the 23 f2 new, I think, is something like 399 maybe. XT1 would have to be second hand, a couple of hundred.
Yeah,
400. I don't know. I really don't know.
I
would say probably
you're going to come out with a lot of change compared to what you would have spent.
Absolutely.
For. I mean, let me look up what a Zeiss 35mm lens is. But while I'm doing that, is that the perfect gateway? Do you think for his street photography? What would you be doing?
Yeah, I mean, I never really consider the XT cameras as street photography cameras.
Why?
They're just a bit bigger, and they've got the prism and the bulk and everything. Street photography, when I shoot for street photography, I invariably use my X100, X70, X Pro perhaps. And yeah, I just think they're a little more discreet, really. But saying that, I know, if you're left-eyed or you don't have a weird nose like me that keeps moving things around on the LCT, then XT's fine. They are very good cameras, obviously. I just think from a street photography perspective, then, the problem is, and X Pro 1, it depends on the price bracket, how much is in the budget, but X Pro 1, if you were to go for an X Pro 1, that's a very slow camera compared to today's models. Whereas XT1 was always a bit quicker in focusing and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe, yeah, I don't know. I'm an X. See, I'd be X100.
Yeah.
But at the same time, then you don't have the interchangeable lenses, and
what about buying? Giles has just started using his. My mate Giles has just started using the X Pro 1 with a 27mm lens.
Yeah.
Loves it.
Yeah.
And
I love the 27mm lens.
I saw the printing that he's achieved off using that lens. He's got some beautiful, huge prints and absolutely stunning, amazing work.
I lost my 27. I lost two of them now.
Well, yeah,
it's tiny. It's like
27mm is the perfect pancake, isn't it? Really? Yeah. That Zeiss lens, by the way, is £650. So perhaps I was doing it a disservice by thinking it was going to go well into the the £1,000 mark there. But so you wouldn't be going for the XT1. Maybe you'd be looking at an old X Pro 1 maybe instead.
X Pro 2. Get a refurb X Pro 2.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And then pair that with a 23 f2.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. As he's so keen on the... Right, there we go.
I'm sure you could do that for under 1,000.
There's your answer, Karen.
Go to the... if Karen's in the UK, go to the Fujifilm UK refurb store.
Yeah.
And they have some good stuff on there.
I'm not sure where Karen is, but there we go. So, your question then, Kev.
Okay, I've got a question from Corey Smith. Huge fan of the podcast, always looking forward to it, etc., etc., etc.
Blah, blah, blah.
Thanks for the knowledge. Thanks for the knowledge nukes. I like that. Knowledge nukes. And awesome YouTube videos on Fuji-related topics. It helps me a lot. I recently switched over to the XT3 about 2 months ago and shoot primarily in aperture priority mode. When using the auto ISO modes with my ISO minimum set to 160, I've been noticing that my images the ISO will not go any lower than 320, even on images in extremely well lit areas. Am I doing something wrong? I know 320 is a good ISO level, but I'm curious why it won't go to 160. Your help would be very much appreciated.
Now I've noticed this.
Yeah, that will be the dynamic range setting, I would imagine. If dynamic range is set to 200, then it will be your minimum ISO. I think 400 brings the minimum ISO to 800. 400% dynamic range is for.
So the only way you're going to get this is by having it on auto dynamic range.
100. Put it on 100%.
100.
100% is so dynamic range in the Fujifilm cameras.
Actually, I've got mine set to 100, and sometimes I can't get the ISO down.
Really? You might have some other stuff going on then.
Okay. Maybe I should check the dynamic range setting.
Yeah, I think so. You might. There might be some other things that affect it. This is XT3. But did he say XT? Yeah, it was XT3. There might be some of the other newer features like flicker reduction and things like that might affect it.
Yeah, see, I have flicker reduction on. I've noticed of late some venues have bought some dead cheap bulbs or something, or doing something, because none of these frequencies match what I'm trying to do with shutter speed. God only knows where they're really buying this stuff.
They're buying the expensive stuff.
Are they?
Because the lower frequency lights that are really low power consumptors are much more expensive, but cause havoc. For photography and videography especially.
They do. Just go to Poundland, buy your bulbs from Poundland.
Yeah,
guys.
Kill the trees.
Oh, right, okay, sorry about
that. So I reckon, anyway, Corey, it's to do with your dynamic range setting. Check that. 100% is effectively off. By the way, the reason why it's percentages is percentage of your exposure. So 100% of 1 is
1.
Yes.
Yeah.
I asked
this question before.
I asked somebody at a workshop the other day, and he said,
what did they say?
He said 8.
8.
It really panicked.
It's that thing about being put on the spot when you're. I went to the. We went last week. We went to the parents because you're in the same situation as us. With you've got Rosa going, we've got our Jack going to secondary school next year.
Yeah.
But so part of that is the parents will go to this this evening where you listen for an hour and a half, whatever it is, to form tutors and year tutors and the headmaster, the headmistress in our case. And they were asking some questions, and I was thinking, oh my God, I feel like I'm back in school. Please don't ask me a question. I'm just going to go into mild panic mode and get everything blindingly wrong, including easy mathematics questions. Dominique Martel, hello, I've been listening to your podcast. I love it. I'd like to know how you store your images. Now, we have had a question like this before, but I'm not expecting you to listen to every single episode. Do you use a NAS or external drive? Do you have multiple catalogues for all your photos for the many years you've been shooting? I know that the ideal solution would be the NAS, but it costs a lot of money, and most of the time I use Lightroom connected via Wi-Fi, so that's not good for NAS. I've tried to connect via drives located downstairs, but performance not that good. It took a long time for the pictures to load. I'm using a 2 terabyte external drive, but it's almost full, so I may purchase a bigger drive, but I'm thinking I might need to split my Lightroom catalogue into several catalogues at some point in the future. Wow. How are you configured? What do you recommend? NAS, external drive, one catalogue or several catalogues? How do you do it? I've got my way of working. You've got yours. I mean, I haven't got a NAS at the moment. I have been thinking about a NAS. And one of the reasons I'm thinking about a NAS is actually having the opportunity to have Windows and Apple computers on the same network. That would make sense for me.
Can't you do that? You don't need a NAS for that, do you?
You can't do that with external because you're separating the somebody's telling me.
You can just share the drive, surely. Or you could just use something like Dropbox as the conduit.
Doesn't that slow the whole thing down though, doesn't it? I suppose
if you stick an Ethernet cable between
because I use
computers.
Google Drive, so I could just go and fetch back the files I want, but that would take time for download.
Well, it depends
long
what.
time.
I mean, it depends what you. I don't know. I mean, I do think people kind of overcomplicate this stuff. I don't have a NAS. I've just bought two 10 terabytes.
Oh, did you buy that one that you sent me, which I meant to buy last week? I bet it's not in a special offer now, is it?
Might be. I don't know. But anyway, I bought a 210. That's not easy to say, two 10 terabytes.
Two 10 terabytes.
Two 10 terabyte drives, and they're not raided or anything like that. You can get RAID versions of them, but they're two 10 terabyte drives. I just like saying it.
Say it fast,
two 10 terabyte drives. It's like RV does saying Phil Foden, who's the Man City player. He just walks around the house going, Phil Foden.
It's like a jingle. Phil Foden.
He just loves the way it sounds.
I'm going to look up that drive that you sent to me.
So anyway, I've got two 10 terabyte drives. And all of my non-pictures, all my business element of stuff, everything, all my marketing, all my email, everything is on Dropbox.
Yep.
So that's a 3 terabyte solution. Dropbox, I don't know what I pay, £7.99 a month or something. That just goes on there, and I love Dropbox. It's perfect. Everything else, so from a wedding point of view and a job point of view, I do one catalogue per event, job, wedding, whatever you want to call it. And when it's all done and dusted and everybody's happy and
it's gone up in price.
Everybody's it has gone up in price. So that's still pretty good going though. So
a WD MyBook 10 terabyte,
10 terabyte
MyBook 10 terabyte desktop hard drive on Amazon in the UK, £207.
Yeah.
As I'm reading this, it might have changed
last week. What did I say it was? £150 or something.
150. Oh
yeah.
My word.
It was £100 off, so it was £156. Yeah. So I've got two 10 terabyte drives, and I use a shadow copy piece of software. So one of them is redundant. So one of them is a duplicate of the other.
Yeah.
And that's where all my kind of wedding work and everything goes to, and all my YouTube videos and all that stuff. But once the job is done and dusted and the album's completed, and every 6 months or so I'll do this. I'll go in, I'll zip up, like, let's just say, I don't know, I might go to October last year, and I'll just zip up the whole of October last year into one zip file, and that gets dropped onto another older hard drive, which I think is like 4 terabytes, and that just sits in my
Do you have a spare one of those?
No, because once they're done, they're done.
Yeah, but what if that drive ever broke down and you wanted to look back at this amazing wedding you had?
Have you ever done that in your 15 years?
Yeah.
Have you? Well, then I'll come around your house and look at some of your pictures.
What about catalogues?
No, but the other thing is, so that was the point. So each wedding on each job is an individual catalogue.
Yes.
So they all disappear. So those 10 terabyte drives never get filled up.
And where do you keep those catalogues?
I keep the live ones, so ones I'm working on currently, and ones that are probably for the last 6 months or so.
We're talking about Lightroom catalogues
are on my internal SSD on my computer.
Right. Okay.
That in turn is duplicated to an internal mechanical drive on my computer.
And do you make smart previews?
If I'm traveling, so I'll use smart previews if I'm traveling, and I'll use my
so
Microsoft
you don't make smart previews as a matter
not as a matter of principle.
I just find it speeds the whole thing up if I disconnect the drive and use smart previews.
I don't disconnect the drive though.
Okay.
I'm doing it all in the studio. If I'm traveling, I will. Yeah, right. But then all of the jobs, once everything's done, I export a high-res JPEGs, and I have one master Lightroom catalogue that's always online. Yeah. So I have access to all of my pictures in that respect, but not things like pictures that I never edited and stuff like that. They just sit in that. I have a stack of them in my studio spare room. And that's it. I'm not.
So you're not using lots of meta.
I'm not worried.
Tags or
no, I don't. People use NAS, and people. I actually have a static IP address in my studio, so I could connect to it externally if I wish to. It's very easy. You do not need techie. You do not need a network attached storage system to be able to access a hard drive externally from the internet. You don't need all of that stuff. You can. It's simpler, but you don't need it. You could do it via a static IP address. However, I don't want to. I don't want to access it. I'm like, I don't know why. I don't.
Well, that's
if
next
I'm working.
Week.
I'm in working.
As from next week. There we go. I believe that's an airline sound.
That makes me nervous as hell. That
does
noise.
It?
Yeah.
Why does that make you nervous?
I don't know. Because I used to be a terrible flyer.
So usually this is. Oh no! Turbulence.
Yeah,
is on its way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And did you know that, when you take off and he does the, after about 2,000 feet, they do the bing, and that's to...
Yeah, that's to release the...
No. That's you have a single bing, right? You have a single
don't
bing.
tell me something I don't want to hear now.
No, it's a good thing. You have a single bing.
I just got over from watching Sully the other night.
And when the second bing happens, which is usually at about 4,000 feet, that's to release the cabin crew.
What's the first bing?
So the first bing is to tell the cabin crew that takeoff was successful.
Oh, that's nice to know.
If the first bing is 2 short bings, right, then it wasn't successful.
That's a bad thing.
No, because that's not a bing. That's not a communication with the cabin crew. That's somebody pressing the seat thingamajiggy.
If I press it twice quickly.
Yeah.
Is that
my heart's going like a parrot. Yeah.
So one bing's good.
We're
cool.
2 quick bings. 2 quick single bings.
Ding ding.
Yeah. Seconds out. Yeah, that's it.
No, that's 3 bings.
No, that's no good. Yeah.
Oh, that's no good.
That's more like a train.
Right. Okay. And somebody writing in saying, "Come on, stop doing sound effects. It's not a radio show."
No, I know. Yeah,
don't have fun. Don't do any innuendo.
So that's my answer. Basically, I don't need to connect to them, and everything is stored and secured, and all of the JPEGs from each job, once the JPEGs are completed and exported to the clients, they also are in the cloud, right. Zenfolio wise, so everything's safe and secure, and I've got redundancy there, but I don't personally need to have access to this stuff.
Yeah, funnily enough, I keep, because I use the Google Drive system, which I love. You're a Dropbox man, aren't you?
Yeah.
Well, I do use Dropbox.
Same principle. Yeah.
But I'm mainly invested in Google Drive now. I'm figuring if something goes wrong with Google, then we're all stuffed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. Dropbox are more likely to drop than Google are.
And I think that's unlikely in itself as well.
Yeah.
But I keep the Google one that I use is one that has you're able to store local files as well as in the cloud. So. On my laptop, that is, and I keep all my wedding catalogs on Google Drive, and I use smart previews only, and I find that speeds the whole process up.
Yeah.
I just disconnect my drives and I edit off the smart previews.
Yeah, I mean that will speed things up, and that's exactly. So when I go away, and if I still have edits to do, then I'll work in the same principle. I'll create smart previews and I'll work off those on my laptop, which is much, much quicker, and then just reconnect.
Right, your question.
Daisuke Hirabayashi.
Yeah, that's it. Daisuke Hirabayashi.
Yeah, cool.
I think so, yeah.
Who happens to be an architect, photographer, and master of archaeology, architecture at Harvard University.
My word, Daisuke, you from Harvard? I feel honoured that you've even written in for us to get your name blindingly wrong, probably.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now based in Basel, in Switzerland. Nice.
I have too many photos on my computer unedited and keep telling myself that I'll get to it when I have some time. In the meantime, I keep photographing, since I much prefer being out on the streets rather than sitting in front of my computer. That's not how you become a master of architecture, though, is it? But leads to accumulating even more unedited photos. Editing is so important. Knowing what you have and looking back at your work. Do you have a daily or weekly schedule of when you edit your personal photos? Okay, so personal is the key thing here.
Yeah.
Work and family leaves little time to sit in front of the library.
What a good idea, by the way, that is.
Oh, and he says best dice, pronounced like dice.
Dice, yeah, Daisuke.
Dice, yeah, so dice is obviously his shorter name of Daisuke. Yeah. So dice. Yeah, so how do you do it?
What do you do?
Personal pictures.
Do you know I'm dreadful with personal pictures, editing them. I have a file and I stick them all in there, and occasionally I think I must look at that file sometime. I'm like the plumber who doesn't fix his own pipes. You're much, much better at editing family stuff as you go along. You're very much the you're the documenter, aren't you?
I'm only good at it because I used to be really bad at it. And pretty much the same thing as you, just used to dump every picture I took into a Lightroom catalogue, a personal Lightroom catalogue. But now what I do, I use a 256 gig memory card, and and that's essentially my personal card. Mostly it sits in my X70 these days.
So you remember to take it out of one camera, put it in another?
Yeah, but I do. But I'm infrequently flipping between cameras these days. So that just sits in there, and it accumulates images over periods of time. And I will literally put that memory card into Photo Mechanic, and I will go through and select them as I was selecting for a wedding. And then those ones that I select will go into Lightroom, and then the card is reformatted.
So how do you work with your Lightroom catalogue and adding extra images from recurring shoots in Lightroom into a catalogue? Because sometimes it can be a bit twitchy doing things like that.
How do you mean? I don't know.
Well, when you're adding extra images into... so you've got a big folder of pictures.
Yeah.
Kev's family.
Yeah.
You've shot 50 last Sunday.
Yeah.
50 tomorrow, 50 next week, and you're adding them in. Well, what happens in the catalogue with Lightroom? Just you can continue just adding them, or do you make new catalogues for each shoot?
No, just I've got one big catalogue for my personal stuff. I have the library is segmented by years and then months.
Right.
So at the end of August, I will dump all of our August pictures. I will select them in Photo Mechanic, so only the ones I want to keep will go into August 2019.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's pretty simple, isn't it?
Yeah, I've complicated mine there.
But the thing is, the hard thing... I'm trying
to put sort of summer, autumn...
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going down the route of catchwording.
Meta tagging,
key phrasing and all that stuff.
See, our friend Paul Rogers is brilliant at that. If you said to him...
Yeah, because he used to be a journo, so...
Yeah, that's true. So if you said to him, I need a picture of somebody in a red dress holding a pint of Guinness, he'd probably be able to find it.
Yeah, good for him.
Okay. I think that's pretty darn impressive, actually.
Yeah, it is impressive, absolutely.
It's just above your pay grade.
But yeah, quite. The problem with the personal stuff, though, is it's hard to delete pictures.
Yeah.
So, and it's the same on our phones. I do a similar thing on my phone. So, for example, if I've taken, I don't know, let's just say the kids are in the park and I've taken 20 pictures on my phone, of which a vast majority of them are not going to be very good or not really ones that I would ever consider doing anything with. So I use Lightroom on my phone. I upload to Lightroom the 2 pictures that I want to keep,
and you use it then.
And then I delete all the pictures off my phone. So otherwise, you've just got clutter, and they're pictures you'll never. What's the point in having a really good picture of Jack and Thomas doing something surrounded by 20 blurry, out of focus pictures, and just not deleting them because it's Jack and Thomas.
That Lightroom app, by the way, is fantastic.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah. I really like it. One more question, then it's into the interview for this week. Hey, Kevin and Neil, I'm loving the show. Since I discovered them only a couple of weeks ago, I've listened to every episode, some more than once. You poor thing, you. There's got to be some sort of treatment for this. The wedding photography market has changed massively over the past few years. Now, we were only talking about this a little bit earlier on. It's
probably changed since then as well.
Yes. If you didn't have your training and workshop businesses, how would you stay profitable and current in today's market of everything that's heavily filtered, orange-coloured presets, flower crowns, smoke bombs, Do you think there are enough wedding clients still around who want really good photography without all the current awesome stuff? I might just... that's from Ali Stewart. Awesome is a word that I find myself trying not to use. Our son's form tutor of that meeting we went to was using the word awesome, and I thought, oh my God, please don't start teaching him that. But there we go. That's just a pet project of mine. Actually, that the way we were talking about the presidency, President Mullins last week, could that be one of your dictates, please, if you could ban the word awesome? Overused.
And smashed it.
And smashed it. For the wrong things.
Smashed it. Smashed that wedding. Did you? Did you smash it? Yes, the industry has changed massively, and you have to change too. And there are still plenty of people who plod along and still make a lot of money and do everything they need to do. Personally, myself, I've found it harder this year, especially, although next year is looking a bit more buoyant, to convert's not really the word, but like the inquiries are down. Even venues. I spoke to a wedding couple, client of mine, who said that their wedding venue, and I'm not going to mention any names, advised them when they were looking at the wedding venue, because they were like, oh, it's quite expensive, this wedding venue, and the wedding venue said, well, don't forget, you don't really need a photographer anymore, because all of the cameras and the phones, all your guests are going to have cameras, and they're just as good. Most of them just run around taking snaps. And if that's a message, because we know that the venues are closing, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world of the venues. The laws are changing so people can get married in their own back garden soon. Yeah. And so things will be dramatically problematic for venues.
About 2 years away, isn't it? That you're going to be able to get a special marriage license.
Yeah, you'll be able to get married anywhere. The registrars, you'll still need registrars, but they'll...
I wonder if the registrars will do some sort of a cohort deal with venues and say, well, we'll only enable so many weddings at a garden venue.
If it's a law, it's law, isn't it? That's the whole point. But that would, people don't think about things like that, and that will have an impact. And the fact that venues are struggling means that they're going to be encouraging their clients, whereas before they'd be encouraging their clients to get the best photographers, and now they're encouraging their clients to get no photographers. And that's a thing. That's a real thing.
Wow.
And so, the industry is struggling.
And then that venue will go and ask you for pictures.
Yeah.
Send us some pictures.
Yeah, send us some pictures.
Yeah.
But everything changes, right? And I don't think it's a... I still make enough money from weddings to live off, put it that way. The workshops, I obviously do those as well, but I wouldn't say... I don't know, if I had no workshops, I'd have to shoot a couple more weddings, but it's not, I consider myself a wedding photographer. That's my job. Yeah. But saying that, you do have to change and you have to evolve. And if you stand still, and I don't mean that on a stylistic point of view, it's about business, marketing.
What does our friend Sanjay say? Evolve or evaporate. That's it.
Yeah. Evolve or evaporate.
Which he's very right about.
Absolutely, yeah. Good old Sanjay.
Yeah.
Mind you, every time he says that, I think of evaporated milk. I used to hate that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Neil? It has changed.
I don't have a workshop business, and I wish I did, because during those quieter periods of the year, January, February, March, I could sure do with a workshop business.
But in the UK, people really, really are reluctant. They're reticent to pay for training.
Are they?
Absolutely.
Because at one stage, when I did do some workshops, and I've done the odd one, and of course X weddings, which we didn't mention last week, which we should mention this week, which we will mention this week. I was doing a few workshops at that stage, but I think it's important to have some sort of credible profile, which you have. And I think that makes a workshop more credible, and I think that's important. Now, there are a lot of people that set up workshops that have been photographing weddings for 2 minutes, which I've thought everybody has something to share, including their experience, but I'm not sure how that's a legitimate long-term business from the off.
No, I mean, my attitude to all of that kind of stuff right in the early days was, because I did get asked to do workshops and stuff, and I refused to do any until I'd been shooting for 5 years. Not photography wise.
Sort of self-imposed thing, was it?
Yeah. And I thought 5 years was a good thing. But you see, in America, for example, they seem willing to invest in training, much more willing. And I have...
it's a different attitude in America.
I have people on my workshops all the time that come from America. Yeah. I had one who came to Belfast from Los Angeles just for the wedding PJ workshop.
Cool.
And
awesome.
Yeah, I smashed it.
Awesome.
Really nice guy, Simon Sue. And but in the UK you get so much, and also what I hate is the I'm going down a rabbit hole here, but I hate the passive aggressiveness.
Warning.
Kev's going to go off on one.
The passive aggressiveness, that you see on Facebook and stuff like that.
What do you mean?
Well, let's just, so for example, X weddings, and while the early bird price was on, it was £175, I think. Yeah. And it's only £195, like full price.
It's not gone up by much.
No, and somebody put £175 for that, with question mark. And I was like, should I reply? And then I thought, yeah, I am. I'm going to reply. And I was like, £175 gets you 6 established speakers, 6 hours, solid hours, actually 7 solid hours, including the Q&A. people's time, people's effort, their experience, they're the lifeblood of the conference. Plus, it gets you a free meal, free lunch, coffees, drinks throughout the day.
You can pay 60 quid for a meal.
That's what I said to him. I said, well, what?
Or maybe 30. 30.
What exactly? Are you getting at?
Yeah.
And this is from somebody who, when I looked at their profile, called themselves a wedding photographer, but had 0 acquainted friends. Didn't have a website, but had a Facebook page,
right,
which was absolutely dire. And I'm like, it's the passive aggressiveness.
One of life's angry people.
Yeah, well, he's basically jealous. It's it's jealousy, and that makes me
seethe.
Yeah, seethe is a polite word.
I think it's a good question, Ali.
It's a really good question.
It's a good question, and I think the industry has changed massively over the past few years for everybody. It's changed for portrait photographers. I know that because I talk to portrait photographers. It's changed for the venues. If you're going to sort of go for a slight left turn at the traffic lights, it's changed for them. It's changed, certainly in photography terms, it's changed for the wedding photographer big time. My numbers are down.
Yeah,
and you'll hear people. One of the things we've always said about this podcast is we will be honest with everything. That includes what we think about lenses, cameras, tech. People that write in about conferences will be on, because I think you'll appreciate that more. And if I sat here and said everything was still awesome, then I'd be lying. I think the industry is, but it's certainly not the 80 a year that it was for me once upon a time. No. Not that I'd necessarily want it to be now, because I've changed direction slightly. But I find myself doing more stuff in sound now, and my sound company is in the middle of launch, and I'm
You're rubbish at sound, though.
I'm doing my best. So I found myself, I will have a 50-50 business.
Yeah.
From maybe not next year, but the year after. Well, 50% of it will be weddings, and 50% of it will be making podcasts for people and for products, and interviewing people, and back in the sound industry again.
Cool.
I'll be doing 50-50 without doubt. That means hopefully this podcast will still be here.
Yeah, well, hopefully.
Interview time. Here we go. This week we're delighted to welcome Saraya Cortaville to the stage, if you will, because she will be on stage on November 13th at the X Weddings Conference in Bath. 3 p.m. she is scheduled to talk about her travels with Fujifilm as a photographer for various NGOs. Saraya travels in ambassadorial role too, as you'll find out over the next 20 minutes or so. I'm looking forward to her talk in November immensely. So, Saraya, you're just shy of 2 decades now as a professional photographer. It may seem a strange question out of the traps, because usually this is one you position right at the end of the checkered flag. But as you approach this big pro anniversary, do you ever feel that you've done it, that you've earned your medals, that you can now rest on your laurels a little?
I don't think as creatives we ever feel like that, to be honest. Especially in photography, we kind of are always chasing those medals, if you like. We're always looking for something different. And even over those 20 years, I've kind of gone through quite a few different stages in my career, really, where I've just constantly need to push myself. So, yeah, after 20 years, actually, it just tends to get harder to find that new thing.
Do you know when those moments are coming up where you think, I need to work a bit harder on this. This is not quite right. I need to do something new. I need something fresh. I need a new challenge. Do you know those moments?
Yeah, definitely. I can feel them coming. And for me, it tends to be a kind of 4 or 5 year cycle where I've tried something new, and yes, I'm all excited and this is my new thing. But over the time, I kind of, like most creatives, you get stuck in a rut doing the same thing day in, day out. And it's great when you first start that new cycle or new challenge. But over time, it gets very comfortable. And I think for me, especially, I like to have that push, which makes my work more interesting to me. If I did the same day in, day out, I don't think I would enjoy photography half as much as I do.
And you've also got this stack of awards. I mean, you mentioned medals just now. You've got this. No, I
think you did first.
Well, yeah. Yeah. You got this stack of awards, and we talked a little while back on the podcast about commendations and awards and the relevance of them. What for you is the purpose behind awards? Because some people do them. some people don't. And those that don't usually say, oh, you don't need awards. Who needed awards to be wedding photographers or portrait photographers? But those that do take part in them have far greater purpose for them usually, don't they?
Yeah, I think for me, again, it's really important to do those kinds of things. Again, you're putting yourself out there, which I think is a really brave thing to do. Again, we are all very, although we're social photographers, quite a lot of the time we're on our own. And it's you're sat in front of a computer and editing. So it's, we're not very social photographers. And I think when you enter these kind of competitions, it puts you up against your peers, which is great. And also you get to go to these amazing awards events and things like that. But it's also, I think for me, it gives me an idea of what else is going on in the photographic world. Otherwise, you'd be very isolated and not that connected with what's going on in the industry. And I think for competitions and things like that is really important.
I think that's really interesting. Actually, you mentioned we work in social photography, but we're not very social.
We're not.
I'd never thought of it that way before.
A lot of photographers, especially wedding and portrait photographers, they're great. I almost say it's like a performance when you're a wedding photographer or a portrait photographer. You go out and you do your hour or 2 hours or 3 hours of performance, and then you come back and you sit in front of the computer and you don't speak to anybody generally.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. And again, we talked about that a little bit a few weeks ago, but I'd not thought about it quite on those lines. It is quite a lonely task, a lonely occupation, isn't it? And I mean, you've been travelling, and we'll get to that in a minute, and perhaps that'll play a part in some of your answers. But when you're home in the UK, you're known really, and the way I originally knew about you was for your portrait work. I mean, is your heart still in that side of your work too?
Oh, absolutely. I love it. I love working with kids. They're great fun, and every day is different. There's a new challenge, and there's a real energy with children that I really appreciate working with. So it's completely my passion. Always will be with the children's portraiture. I've
seen you actually working, because I made a film with you a few years back for a camera, and I saw the way you are with kids when you're working, and you kind of, I think you in particular, you're on their level. I think you have to play. You have to play, don't you? Do you think that's easier for? I'm probably going to open up a can of worms here. But
we're going to say with women. I had this question only 3 days ago.
Okay, so I've asked the question. I've let the worm out that can.
Brave move.
What do you think?
I'd like to think it's not the case, but it's one of those things. I think if you're good with children, you're just good with children, whether you're male or female. I think women get it a little bit easier because they generally do the childcare, and they know that the kind of ins that you need with kids at certain ages. And I'm not saying that guys don't have that. It's just, I think women find it easier because they generally know the process of childhood, if you like.
I like this idea of portrait days where you choose a location, Saraya, and you invite folk along. It's a really different, it's certainly a different way of working. When you compare it to the straight one-to-one commission work where somebody phones you up and says, like your work, want to meet you and work with the family. But where did that idea come from? And do many people turn up? I've got this sort of in the back of my mind, this sort of throng of people invading an area, and you sort of wading in and trying to get as many photographs as you can. How does that work?
Well, it kind of came around because I moved away from my client base. And so I always used to have a studio in North London. I was based there for a good 6 years. And then I went travelling, as you know, and kind of moved out of the area. I moved down to the West Country in Cheltenham, which is where my family are originally from. But I still had all of my clients still wanting me to go back to London to do shoots for them. So I said, do you know what? I'm going to pick a couple of nice locations, and these are the days I'm back in London. So if you would like a shoot again, this is when I'm going to be there. I
thought it was a really good way of working. A simple logistics thing, because I've asked Kev this on the times that he does his street workshops, and he always says, if it's raining or snowing, it's raining or snowing. Now I can understand that with a street workshop, but with portraiture that could be a bit tougher, couldn't it?
most of the locations that I choose have somewhere to go if that happens. And it's always the first question I get, because people pay up front for my shoots.
Yeah.
So they're always a little bit worried about, what happens if it's raining or snowing. And I kind of say, do you know what? In the 20 years I've been doing it, I think I've only ever postponed 2 shoots.
Right.
Because there's always somewhere that I can find to go, or, if it's completely horrendous, obviously, we change it. But we can generally work around things.
Yeah.
We're photographers, and on location, you've kind of got to roll with the punches, if you like, and you get what's given. It's like a wedding photographer. You can't change the day. It is what it is. I think it's quite sweet. I had a beautiful shoot recently, and it was torrential rain, but we got some beautiful shots of a little brother and sister underneath an umbrella, and they were kissing each other, and the parents absolutely adored the pictures.
So look, I've been following your Insta feed, the Saraya travel one in particular.
Yeah.
And this world of travels that seems to have consumed you in the last 5 years in particular.
Aren't I lucky?
Being an, I love this title, an expedition photographer.
Yeah.
for NGOs. I mean, it sounds exceptionally glamorous.
It's not at all.
From the out. Well, I was just about to add 3 words, from the outside. So tell me first of all, I'm intrigued as to how it happened, because one moment you're motoring along with your really successful portrait business, and the next minute I'm thinking, that's Saraya. She's in Africa. What's she doing there?
Again, that came really about from boredom and kind of challenging myself again. My daughter had literally turned 18, was going off to university. I kind of had empty nest syndrome, was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And also creatively in the studio, I'd been in as beautiful as my studio was, I could feel my work was getting a little bit samey. Mm. So I kind of thought, you know what, I need to change this up a little bit. And just contacted an international NGO, see if they needed photographers. They did. They have something called a communications team, which involves a writer and a photographer, and they send you out to various projects. The very first one was Tanzania, so I was there for 4 months. Just as my daughter had gone off to university, I then shut my studio down and then went off to Tanzania for 4 months. Because
it's not the jolly that some people think it is. I mean, you've just mentioned 4 months. It's not like, well, I fancy going for 2 weeks to I don't know, Kenya or something.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work like that. You've got to you offer yourself up, and I don't think. Excuse me for being a little bit gratuitous with a financial question, but I don't think people do that for the money either, do they?
No. Well, you don't get paid. And a lot of it is self-funded. Luckily, again, I've got lovely clients. And for my very first trip, a lot of my clients funded me to go.
Yeah.
So, which was brilliant. And they, even if I'm getting bookings now, they'll say, oh, where are you off to next? Is there any way we can help? And, to have a kind of client base like that, that's supporting not only my portrait career, but my travel kind of adventures is brilliant.
Would you say you're away sort of 50% of the year now, or because
no, it's not that much.
Okay, it always feels like that with you. Whenever I look at your Instagram feed, I think, right, where's Saraya off to this week?
No, I try and do. As portrait photographers, and especially location portrait photographers, I'm normally relatively quiet, kind of end of December to kind of March, April, when everybody starts getting brave enough to go back outside again. So if I'm going to travel, it tends to be at those times.
Oh, that makes sense. And I think I know the answer to this because you've half answered it anyway. But what do you personally get from the experience? I mean, and in a more sort of, well, dare I use the word spiritual? And that's kind of spiritual sense. The takeaway. What you as Saraya as a person, what do you get from this work?
Absolutely. Loads. Okay. I mean, I couldn't actually say there was one thing that I took away from it, because it's the very first one that I did was completely life-changing. I mean, I even at the age of 41, when I did it, it just completely changed my outlook on life. It changed the way I approach everything. when you realise how difficult some people do have it in this world, it really does make you appreciate what you do have. And like you were saying, it's not the jolly that everybody kind of thinks it is. I would have people saying to me, "Oh, enjoy your holiday." Do you know what? Really, it's not a holiday. I don't have a toilet. I don't have there's no showers. There's nowhere to wash your clothes. It is really very much back to basics. Live in these communities, so it's.
Well, you're not going out to photograph people in Hilton 5-star hotels, are you? I mean, you're going out there to tell a story, and usually a story for something that requires help and assistance, aren't you?
Yeah. And yes, exactly. You're living in these very, very basic conditions. So when you get back to normality, it really is, my God, I'm going to appreciate everything I really have. Even just the fact of a working toilet or running water, something really quite that basic.
Well, I completely understand what you're saying, because I've just been working in Africa myself a little bit in the Gambia over the last 12 months on a project about a coup. So, and I went with zero expectations and zero knowledge, which is not the best way to...
Or sometimes it actually is the best way.
Sometimes,
no expectation.
Yes. Well, I soon found, when you say... I mean, I was lucky. I was staying with a family, and so I did have a trickling shower. And the family, God bless them, they fed me so much I came back heavier. So I had a different experience to you, but with that zero expectation, zero knowledge. I mean, there was one military client who suggested, there's no old army phrase, but the week before I went, he said, "Stay low, move fast."
That's probably quite difficult for you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. But you've covered more of the continent certainly than I have. How have you found, looking after yourself and staying safe? I see a lot of pictures where you seem to be often on your own, and of course you are in a place that's foreign to you, that you don't know. You have to learn very, very quickly what it's like on the ground, don't you? How have you coped with that?
I've actually found it really lovely. And in all of the places I've been, I've never, ever felt unsafe. There are always a team of people with us. Although I go to these places on my own, when we get to the countries that we go to, we tend to have in-country people that will help us along the way. So they have that in-country knowledge. Yeah. That obviously we don't have, and that is vitally important, because they can obviously say, don't go to this area, don't go to that area, it's a little bit dangerous, or you might feel a little bit uncomfortable. But not at any point in the last 5 years have I ever felt. You tend to get a feeling if a place is a little bit more edgy, then you might not go there. But yes, having that insider knowledge has made the world of difference, because. And also they can generally tell the communities what I'm doing there. Yes, of course. And as I'm there for kind of 2-3 weeks per visit, and I'm living in these families, it does make my life an awful lot easier, because they get to know me and I'm non-threatening. And so there's not that mystique of who is this lady coming to take pictures and write stories about me. It's already been explained as to what I'm doing there, which I think really helps my case. So you're doing a lot of the writing as well? I think on sometimes I have. Generally, the head office of the NGO will give me a brief that I work to. So when I was in Nicaragua, they said to me, we would like you to take images of local entrepreneurs and tell us what their businesses are, why they're hoping for funding. Or when I was in Nepal, the NGO asked me about getting some stories, particularly about the earthquake. So they'll give me a rough idea of what they're looking for, because they will get them professional writers. I just need to get the kind of raw details when they write stuff for magazines and reports and things like that. The kit's very important. I mean, it's some of these areas you're going to, it's dusty, it's sometimes very wet, sometimes unexpectedly, suddenly, boom, hot. I know you were using the XT2 a lot. I saw that certainly when I read some stuff about you. Have you
have you swapped? Swapped up seems wrong because some people just love the XT2. There's nothing wrong with it.
I do. I'm one of those.
But have you gone up? Have you?
XT2.
So you've not moved to the XT3 yet? You've kept with the XT2. Kept the faith.
I've kept the faith, and the fact that it's personalised for me has helped, because I would feel loath to give that up. It was when we were giving them before for testing and things. They put my name on the bottom. So yes, it was my first Fuji. I know they don't do it anymore, which is a shame.
Listen, I'll give you an XT3 and I'll write your name on the bottom if it helps.
Fabulous! Do that. No, I have to say the XT3. I'm off to Madagascar on Sunday, and I've got 2 XT3s coming with me. It's for a water aid project that we're doing in conjunction with Fujifilm. So
how exciting! Wow, yeah. And how long are you there?
Only 10 days.
Okay, all right.
10 days. So I'm going to have to work pretty quickly to get what we need. But I'm really exciting. I've never been to Madagascar before.
No, it sounds amazing.
It's one for me.
Obviously, it's a holiday. Clearly,
it's a holiday.
If we played this game recently, myself and Kev, and we were talking about travel photography, and we said, if you could travel with one body and one lens, I think I know the body. But what would that be? I mean, you tell these incredible stories, and we will put the links, by the way, to Saraya's travel material, and obviously the portrait material too.
Yeah.
But if they say, right, Saraya, we've got one tiny bag. This is all you can. I know you like your big Billingham bag. I've seen it.
But I've made it smaller.
Have you gone downsized?
I'm in a small Billingham bag.
A small Billingham bag.
Yes.
What would you take? One lens, one body.
I would. Probably XT3, and I would go with the 50-140.
Oh, right. So quite a thumping lens.
And I'm afraid I like that long lens. Yeah. The stuff that I do, people are quite often surprised by that.
I am as well, yeah.
It really does kind of, and I explain it on my talks, it's generally because it gives me and the subject a little bit of distance from each other. So they know that I'm there. They're very aware that I'm there, but it's more that I'm observing. So there's just a level of space between us and a respect, I think. I think that I don't get these photographers that can go right up to people that they don't know.
Yeah.
In their faces, I would find that quite intrusive, and I think it then makes for an unnatural portrait.
It can be intimidating, although sometimes, I mean, if you looked at the Don Mccullen exhibition recently where he... did you go to that exhibition?
I didn't. I'm gutted.
You're probably abroad somewhere, knowing you. But I remember quite a few of the particular pictures being him right in the faces of people who were... I mean, there's particularly... shocking selection of photographs of captors that were just about to be executed, and he made these portraits of them on what I surmised to be 24mm focal length. Could have been slightly more, but certainly not much more than 35, if that. But that's a different kind of, well, it is and it isn't. I mean, he's in the face doing portraits, but I understand also your separation. I understand that reverence.
That's probably the message that he was, there's
very
a
different
feeling. If you're right up close to somebody, then you're making the viewer feel quite uncomfortable.
Yeah. Oh, well, they were very uncomfortable pictures. Yeah. Now, you joined the ambassador lineup in 2016, X-Photographer. How did that come about?
I do you know what? I don't actually know.
Because people always ask that question of Kev.
Yeah, and it just seemed that to me that I'd kind of come back from Tanzania and my work had been out there, and I think somebody maybe mentioned my name to some of the people at Fujifilm, and I got a very nice phone call one day saying, we'd like to meet you and see if we could work together, and it's kind of gone from there.
Yeah,
and it's one of the things when people kind of say to me, what do you get out of these trips when you're volunteering? I get amazing opportunities like that I'm pretty sure have come off the back of me volunteering. So it's as much as I have to pay for these trips and I volunteer, I think actually what I've got back in return from them has been way more than I would ever pay.
Well, it's the old adage, isn't it? You get back what you're prepared to put in, and I think that's
100%.
Now, one of those opportunities, finally, will be you sharing what you know at the X Weddings conference, and you are described as a wild card. Does this mean you're going to fire in and sort of do something quite unexpected? I'm seeing you swinging from the chandeliers across.
Fired from a cannon.
Fired from a cannon.
I'll try and live up to that.
Well, no, I'm expecting it. So what do you? I mean, I know you can't talk about the whole talk, and you're probably mid-writing as well. But what sort of things can we expect you're going to discuss across your hour?
Well, it's probably going to be a few stories from my travels. I'll certainly show you an awful lot of images from my 5 years since I've started this journey, and kind of why I did it, and where it's kind of the direction it's now completely taken my career. So there'll be a lot of stories on the way, an awful lot of images, and hopefully maybe some inspiration somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure there'll be oodles of that.
No, and I kind of hope to encourage other people to kind of push themselves a little bit, because I really did push myself creatively to start doing this, and it's like they always say, the hardest things that you ever do that can be the most rewarding, and this certainly has been the case, and I haven't looked back now, so it's something that I will constantly try and keep involved in.
Our thanks this week to Saraya Cortaville for her time, and looking forward to the talk at the X-Weddings conference. She is, as we identified, the wild card, talking about her travels using the Fujifilm system. 13th of November, Saraya's talk is at 3 p.m. Right, back to the questions. Kev, your turn.
Our friend Lee Glasgow.
Oh, Lee Glasgow.
And this is from months ago.
Lee Glasgow he's in the Facebook group. If you haven't been there yet, we have a Facebook group for the FujiCast.
Bing, bing.
And he always seems to be in there in some sort of, he's either in a hot tub or worse things. I mean, he leads a life of luxury, that boy.
So Lee says, your podcast is slightly above average on the entertainment graph.
Thank you.
A fair bit below My Dad Writes a Porno.
That
podcast.
was a massive podcast. Do you know about that?
I heard about it. I never actually
huge success. Yeah.
But as I creep into my 50th year, you feel like a comfy pair of slippers for my ears, and make my Monday morning in the hot tub so more bearable. I know this has been around a while, but for some reason this conversation touched a nerve. Every year I get asked to photograph at dance school, a job I really don't want. It was more of a favour. I was told today that they won't need me this year, as the video company will be pulling the stills from the video. Although this saves me a job, I have noticed more and more videographers putting screen grabs from social media for social media marketing from weddings I have booked to capture the stills. Photography is such a beautiful thing, but how long have we got before putting a video stills is a usable solution or like a usable resolution? Yeah. When does that become a threat? Yeah. And will it be the end of photography?
Yeah. Ooh. Well, I mean, you've got to almost be. I mean, you've got to live that whole event again to pull stills out of it, haven't you? I mean, it's a bit like those that shoot 30,000, 40,000 frames of wedding or event or whatever they're shooting.
I'm going to send Lee a strap.
Are you?
Yeah, because he got the word porno into a question.
Hang on a minute.
Warning.
You're going to have that chap writing to us about innuendo again. Don't you dare.
It's a really... Do you know what? I remember sitting at the photography show about 2 years ago maybe, and Jeff Woods. You know Jeff Woods?
Yeah, the
videographer.
Incredibly good video.
Brilliant. I've worked with him a couple of times, and he was doing a talk on I think it was the behind the lens stage. So I went and listened to it, and I'm fairly sure he was using. Oh no, he was using a 4K. He's a Sony shooter. Right. He's using 4K Sony cameras to make these absolutely amazing films he makes. Yeah. And he was pulling stills, and they were good, and they were resolving at something like 12 megapixels. And he was saying that within 3 or 4 years we'll be using 6K cameras and then 8K cameras. Yeah. And after 8K, guess what's going to come after 8K cameras?
12?
Yeah. No 10. No. It's going to be 12.
Straight to 12, doesn't it?
And he basically said that this is what he does now. Imagine what you'll be able to do with 8. And 8K is around now. 8K is a thing. You can get an 8K TV in Dixon's if you want to go.
8K camera's going to set you back a bit
if you want to go blind. But it's happening, and so it is a valid worry. I think it's something I've been concerned about. Not overly, because I still think that you have to blend in the fact that to make a good film you're still going to be shooting at 50 frames per second, and you're going to have blur, and it's a tricky thing to do, I think, to get the frame right. However, when
of course, frame rate's going to decide that a lot. Of course, because you're shooting at 50th.
Correct, but saying that,
well, not always, but
I mean, saying that though, we're only shooting at 50th because of the PAL NTSC paradigms. And what's to say they don't change?
But also the blur to get that sort of creamy sort of movement thing.
Yeah, but that's
why you shoot a slightly slower.
Yeah, no, I get that, but that's because the filmic look that we're all like used to and seeing and stuff. But there are
you don't want it to be digitally jerky.
No, exactly. But I would imagine it's going to be very easy and probably already out there for technology to retro affect that.
Shoot
at much higher frame rate.
Thousandth and still.
And isn't that what phones do? Isn't that when you point your phone at somebody and press a button, it takes like 6 pictures, doesn't it? And then just shows you the best one.
Yeah.
So it is a concern. It is a concern for me. I have to say, it is a concern for me. But not, I still think that you will lose an artistic element of it. Now, Jeff's films are artistically beautiful from a filming point of view.
No doubt about that.
But there won't be so much consideration put into each individual moment.
No.
And that's the difference.
But will you get a situation where brides and grooms say, look, we'll have the film, and if you've got, Jeff, maybe, I don't know, a couple of dozen top images from the day, that'll be our photography?
I think it will.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think that will be the norm? Do you think the norm is going to change because I don't know necessarily that the norm is these days photography above filmmaking.
I think it's flipping a bit.
It's flipping a bit, though, is it? Do you think?
I don't think
going that way.
I think you'd have to be a bloody good filmmaker like Jeff is to be able to offer that as a service. To be able to go to a client and say, look at this film I can make, and also look at these pictures I can make for you at the same time.
Yeah.
If you're I've seen videographers that are amazing, and I've seen videographers that basically stick a tripod at the back of the church, press play, and then look at their phone for the rest of the ceremony. They're not going to be able to do it, and so it does depend a lot on the talent.
Well, Phil White's another one that can do it really
Phil
well.
White would be able to do it, yeah.
He thinks of angles, he's very documentary. I know you could say that all video guys and girls are documentary because they don't really touch anything, well, very rarely.
Yeah, no, I get that, but there's
a difference in how they form their angles and what they shoot, and shooting into light or shooting with light.
Absolutely, there's creativity involved in it that a lot of people don't really understand, and so that's where I think it will become an issue if it becomes the norm. Is getting people who can do it well. Yeah. But I think that's a way down the line. And Lee, you're 50 this year, mate. So
you'll be retiring before then.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're in your hot tub. Who cares?
Might get your bus pass by then.
Right. Let's go for the self-indulgent moment. Then we've got one more question, because we did a long first half. One more question to go after that. We're taking a break from the self-indulgent minute, by the way, from next week for 3 weeks, which we'll tell you about in a minute. First one from Magali. Don't let the title fool you. This podcast is something for all photographers, not just Fuji fanboys or girls. Format and content is great and it's very entertaining. Production is excellent. He said that with a French accent. Great banter. He could be down the pub with us. The podcast is released on a Monday each week, and it's rare if I haven't listened by Monday evening. There we go. So thank you very much, Magali.
Found this podcast a few days ago via Kevin Mullins' social media. I love it and have listened to it whenever I have a few spare minutes. Over the last week, I've been binge listening to the back catalogue to catch up, and have loved every minute. That's Wolverine 874.
Jez Michael P. Thank you. I'm a Fuji X-Photographer who shoots weddings. He's in Australia, so it's a pleasure to stumble across this podcast. These two share a lot of knowledge, have great guests on, and have great banter. Keep it up, guys. Thank you. Do you have another one, Kev?
No.
I have more here.
I know, but mine all say things like, I got ones that just say excellent, brilliant podcast.
Well, that's fine. You can still add them in.
But they don't have any names under them.
Oh, don't they?
No.
Well, that's my fault.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for sending in your reviews.
Yes, thank you.
They are very much appreciated, and that's why we've been doing the self-indulgent moment, our minute. And
until we got our knuckles wrapped.
Until we got our knuckles wrapped. It was supposed to be done with it's kind of a, I don't know, there's a twist on it in so far as we're not totally serious about it, because we know they're saying nice things, and reading out nice things about yourself might be considered not very British. But there's a reason we did it. Well, number one, it's great to get the reviews. It helps the podcast grow.
Yeah, please keep doing the reviews.
Please keep doing the reviews. Number two, it's nice to thank you because you take some time in doing them, and we do read them all, even if sometimes it takes a while to get stuff out on the show. And there was a number three, and I'd completely forgotten it. X-Weddings.
X-Weddings.
So what's going on?
The Hilton Hotel is about to be closed down while they refurb it.
Are they making it special for us?
Yeah, they're doing it just for us.
Wow.
They're changing the entire shape into a massive X.
They're redesigning the whole building. That's very kind of them.
Yeah, no, it's closing for the summer while they... and that's one of the reasons why we didn't do it in June this year, because it was June last year. But,
of course.
So it's closing for the summer. They've delayed it a little bit, and it's going to be much nicer, apparently. So it should be good. Everything's just ticking along nicely. We still have tickets for sale, of course. I think £175, £195 for the keynote day, and then we also have Neil doing his one-day workshop on sound and video and all the good stuff.
Get
like
that movie button working on your
camera.
On your camera.
Yeah.
We'll talk a lot about sound and how you can sync it as well. And stuff like that.
And that day also will be. I mean, that's a full day. It's going to be like 9 till 5, whatever. And of course, lunch is included and all of that stuff throughout as well. And those two workshops, by the way, the one that Neil is doing and the one that Wojtek is doing, are small and discreet.
Yes,
so
discreet. Doesn't mean you have to hide.
There will only be a handful of people on those. We're not going to have a lot of people, and we're not going to have more than around 60, 65 people on the keynote day either. The room can hold 120. But I feel that it worked really well with the numbers last year, so we're not going to go any higher than that.
Okay.
So please, and I know you probably think I'm just saying this because I'm the one behind it. A, it doesn't really make any money, and B, you do not leave it too long because it will. Last year we had a whole load of people that were left it too late and couldn't.
Oh, they couldn't come, could they?
No,
seats were not available.
Seats were not available.
Actually, you turned a few people away.
Yeah, I did because I'm giving people enough notification. It will.
Kevin was at the door. Well, Gemma was at the door. That's not coming in.
So 65 people. So I'm not gonna open it up further than that because it takes away from the intimacy of it. But Fujifilm will be there. We've got Jorgensen albums coming. We've got some giveaway gifts from all of those, and X-Rite Photo have given me some stuff to give away. Plus, I'm hoping to get some more stuff. I'm going to be giving away some free workshops. And spot prizes. Oh yeah, we had some good spot prizes last year. We had all those Fujifilm power banks.
No, we did, didn't we?
Yeah, and stuff.
I keep saying we. It's like I'm involved.
Oh, you are involved.
I bring along the sound stuff.
If it weren't for you, then it would sound rubbish.
Well, that's very kind of you. I tell you, one of the things I really enjoyed was the Q&A. It was a really good thing. At the end of the day, people just thought, do you know what? Hang it. I haven't asked this question. I was too embarrassed at the time. I'm just going to throw it in and see what happens.
Yeah, and by that point the bar had opened and everything, so it was very good.
Beer does help questions flow.
Absolutely.
I wonder this year whether the Q&A could be the podcast.
I thought you were going to say, I wonder if this year we should start having beer at breakfast.
There is that
and
as
then
well.
that will help the day flow.
Or maybe, yes, the same rules should apply to the X-Weddings conference as apply when you go on holiday.
Oh, we're definitely...
You can drink from the moment you arrive at the airport.
Well, definitely. I think we should definitely record the Q&A for sure and use that on the at least parts of it on the podcast.
I think it should be the podcast.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, maybe we'll talk about that.
And we've got
off mic.
Ben Gillett is going to come and do some filming as well for us.
Oh yes,
nice. And I've had loads of emails from people saying I cannot come. Are you filming it and will you be selling it later? And the answer to that is a flat no. And the reason for that is A, because it'd be a lot of work, but B, because I would feel obliged. None of the speakers have mentioned it, but I would feel obliged to pay the speakers a whole load more money. And I just can't do that. So that's not going to happen. But Ben's going to come along and do some like social media stuff and everything for us, which would be cool.
Thank you, Ben. Last question of the show today, because Kev has got a pack. He's off to Ibiza. I was going to say it's not Ibiza at all. He's off to his private pad. It's like some sort of James Bond villain lair in the middle of Espana somewhere. Nobody knows. Nobody's ever been there, but the Mullins family.
You can't get post there. It have an address.
And as we know, it's full of creepy crawlies.
A lot of creepy crawlies.
Well, this is quite a long question, but there's a few bits in there in terms of some bravos for some bits and bobs. Hi, Neil and Kevin. I'd happily leave you a 5-star rating, by the way. This is from Andrew Higgins. But I'm subscribed via Google Podcasts, and I can't find a way to leave a recommendation. It's very hard for us to find a way of finding out how many people listen through Google, by the way.
Yeah, you can't. I don't think you can leave reviews.
I mean,
on Google.
it's X amount that we know listen on one platform, X amount on Spotify. I have no idea via Google at the moment, I'm afraid. As a long-time working jobbing photographer, I appreciate hearing from other pros. Along the way in your shows, a couple of moments have especially caught my ear. Firstly, when a couple of shows ago you talked about the uncertainty you feel about your own work, whether it is or will be good enough, in inverted commas. This was a wow moment for me, as I've always had this stage fright masked by the front you need as a paid photographer. Secondly, last week, a couple of weeks ago, this will be Kevin saying he uses P mode. Hurrah! I've used this for years, thinking it was the most useful and flexible mode. Need a shutter speed? Flick that dial. Need an aperture? Just dial it in. Otherwise, just keep an eye on what the camera's up to, and if it's all good, that's fine. But for the past year, I've been using shutter and aperture priority more often, depending on the job, but it seems such a faff compared to the effectiveness of P mode. I came across a video interview with Martin Parr just last week, who also says he uses his camera on
P mode.
P mode, yeah. Vindication is suddenly out there for the often derided P mode. Anyway, question. Years ago, I had a Fuji X10, super little camera, I foolishly sold to help buy a Sony RX100. Nice, but not as nice as I thought. I really like the depth of the monotones produced by the Fuji, which together with your weekly podcast has left me with a bit of a gas itch about buying into the Fuji X system. I'm only looking at buying second-hand, toeing the Fuji waters, as I see many older X cameras are really quite cheap these days, around 200 squid or less. So, question is, what older Fuji X camera would you chaps think is a decent one to start off with getting cheaply? And which lens? Andrew Higgins, thank you.
I don't know. The thing about the Fujifilm system is there's lots of technically the same cameras in different disguises.
Yeah.
So it does depend a lot on ergonomics, aesthetics, hand size, weight, all that stuff. Me personally, if I'm digging in right now, and it depends a lot on budget, of course, I'd be going X Pro, X100. I always I try and level this question out by saying, which camera would I absolutely grab if the house was on fire?
X Pro 2 and 27mm.
Is that your answer?
Yeah.
They're the ones you would grab?
I think so.
Do you use 27mm for...
I have used it a bit now, yeah.
For weddings?
Yeah, I've used it a couple times. So it's sort of 40mm-ish focal length, isn't it?
Yeah, okay, well...
Actually, it's not now.
See, it's a hard question, isn't it?
It is.
I think mine would be X100, but then it's interchangeable, non-interchangeable, and you're a bit stuck.
Yeah. So, for example, this afternoon I'm going on a bit of a family event, and I was thinking, well, I don't want to take loads of cameras. I don't want to take 2 cameras. What should I take? So it is going to be the XT3, funnily enough, because of the low light capability on that. And I did think about the 27mm.
That's a good lens, 27mm.
Because
it's just the aperture. Some people really fail miserably at figuring out the fact it hasn't got an aperture ring. And
no, it hasn't.
You know,
but you can do that on the command dial.
On the dial, yeah. But you have to set it up, and that kind of throws a few people.
It does throw me a little bit, because on my command dial I have exposure compensation.
Yeah.
So you have to remember which one you're using.
Yeah.
So what would you use?
X100.
Is the X100? Yeah. So that's the one to go for then.
I think. But it's such a
X100T or S or
it all depends on.
Because he's saying he wants an older Fuji X camera, so probably not the.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I misheard that bit. Then in which case, then perhaps X Pro 1, X100T or S. The original X100 obviously is a dear camera to me, but it's not very good.
No.
In comparison to today's cameras.
Go for a T.
Yeah, excellent. So you get those really good second hand now.
Yeah,
really good.
Well, over there. There's your answer. Now, this is important. I feel I should have a jingle for a big announcement thing. But Kev, for next week, we have no idea where this is going to work yet. By the way, because we haven't actually sorted out what's called the. The VoIP link that we're going to do. So
the logistics
of it. So I'm sure it will work. But for next week, the next 3 weeks, the next 3 shows are going to be Kev in Spain and me here in Blighty. So it could be interesting. On a radio show years ago, we used to do this thing where we used to there was a sort of a mad minute right at the start of the show where somebody would phone in and we'd give them all sorts of things they had to do within that minute, rushing all over the house. I've got a feeling I want to sort of introduce a couple of those old radio features. See if we can make the Mullins when he's blind drunk. He could do certain things he'd never ever do when he was in the UK doing this show usually. So are you looking forward to it?
Oh, I can't wait. I cannot wait. I've got so much work to do before I go, but when I go,
it'll be done. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You'll be up in the air. The 2 dings would have gone. The 1 ding for we're okay at 2,000 feet, and the second ding for
I was thinking
release the people to serve alcohol.
When I was saying that, I was thinking, oh my lord, I really hope I've got that right, because if I've got it wrong, and then like 2 dings just means like air conditioning's gone on or something, and then 2 dings
people are going
to be panicking.
I know.
It's like what's
disclaimer then? Don't listen tremendously to what Kev says earlier, but all the same, just like it'd be known that Kev will be doing. He'll be doing that because he'll be ordering his 3rd beer. They'll be thinking, oh God, guy in seat 22F keeps asking for beer. How many times? So anyway, that's where you'll be. Payoffs. Do we have? We do them quickly. Rosa first.
My dad's Instagram is Kevin Mullins Photography. See his films on YouTube at Documentary Eye. His website is kevinmullinsphotography.co.uk. Or for street workshops, training, and everything Fujifilm, go to f16.click.
And for me, from Jack.
My dad's Instagram is Neil James. See his films on YouTube at Neil James Photo. His website is neiljames.com for pictures and one-to-one mentoring. And you can hear his other photography podcast, which is called Breathe Pictures, wherever you get your podcasts.
Thanks for your questions, lifeblood of the shows. Keep sending them in, please, because we will get them, or Kev will get them in Spain. Click at fujicast.co.uk. Thank you to Simpler Straps. Go to simpler.us. Music from Blue Wednesday, and it's not Allah. What's goodbye in Spanish? Surely you know goodbye in Spanish.
I do. I'm too tired.
Bonsoir. No, that's French.